Okay, let's unpack this. For decades, we've chased this idea, haven't we? That finding meaning. It's about having a mission statement, clear goals, a defined purpose.
Right, like it's purely an intellectual thing, a top-down exercise.
Exactly. But what if it's not just about thinking our way to meaning? What if it's deeper, like hardwired into us, chemically, emotionally?
And that's the core question for our deep dive today. We're moving beyond the why should I live meaningfully question. We're digging into the how. How are we actually wired to find meaning? It's this really sophisticated link between our internal feelings, that raw emotional data.
And our sense of purpose.
Exactly. Our capacity to build that sense of purpose. We're basically trying to decode the fundamental architecture of motivation, meaning significance, the whole shebang.
And the sources we're drawing on today, they offer a pretty fascinating view, kind of a shortcut, blending the latest on motivational meaning with, well, the nitty-gritty neurochemistry.
Yeah, we're getting past the abstract philosophical stuff and right into the biology of it all.
The biology of purpose. I like that.
And look, this is really valuable for you listening. If you've ever felt, a bit lost trying to figure out your path.
Or maybe you hit some huge goal and it felt empty.
But then a small moment felt incredibly rich.
Precisely. Understanding these underlying mechanics, the emotional and chemical gears turning inside, that's key. Because meaning isn't just something you decide on intellectually.
It's a feeling.
It's a profound felt experience.
Yeah.
And our mission today is to figure out how the brain actually generates that feeling, that sense of real significance.
Okay, so let's start by tackling a big misconception. We often treat our emotions like baggage, right?
Yeah.
Messy, irrational things that just sort of happen to us.
Yeah, inconvenient static. But the research, the sources we're looking at, they're really clear.
Yeah.
That's not it at all. Emotions are a highly advanced system, intentional.
Not just noise.
Far from it. They're the brain's way of assigning value. Think of them as an internal compass.
Internal compass, okay? Yeah, and this compass doesn't just tell you your internal temperature. It's constantly scanning your environment, the people, events, potential goals, and instantly tagging them with personal value. And this happens before conscious thought kicks in.
Whoa. So, okay, if I'm getting this, an event, like stripped bare of any emotion attached to it. It's just neutral, just data.
Exactly. It's just a fact floating in the ether.
And it's the emotion, the signal, that makes it matter to us.
Yeah.
Makes it relevant or urgent or valuable.
Precisely. That's the core function. We call them signals of importance. When an emotion fires boom, it immediately tells you how relevant this thing is to your well-being, maybe even your survival.
Give me an example.
Okay, think about joy. It's not just, feeling happy. It's like an urgent internal bulletin that says, pay attention. This is important. This supports you, helps you flourish. Seek more of this.
Right. And fear.
Fear is a high priority alarm bell. Danger. This matters critically. Avoid this threat now. Without that internal felt tag, the event just sits there, inert information in the brain's huge database.
Wow, okay. That completely reframes the whole search for meaning then. If emotions are how we assign value, then the feeling of meaning, that must be the top tier, right? The highest value we can assign emotionally.
It absolutely is. True meaning is embodied. It's felt. Think about when people describe a purposeful life. What words do they use?
Satisfaction. Fulfillment, engagement, awe, maybe.
Exactly. Words that describe a feeling. That felt experience is the emotional value sticker slapped onto certain deep pursuits, raising a family, fighting for a cause, creating art, whatever it is for you.
And that feeling makes those pursuits sticky, worthwhile, even when it's hard.
Totally. It makes them durable. It signals right down at the chemical level. This pursuit, this is the ultimate reward. It solidifies them.
Okay, so the brain's constantly tagging experiences. Should I repeat this? Avoid this. And our sources mentioned two key dimensions it uses for this instant sorting. How does that work?
It's remarkably efficient, actually. It uses these two dimensions, valence and arousal.
Valence and arousal.
Valence is pretty simple. Is this good or bad? Positive or negative?
Got it. And arousal.
Arousal is the intensity. Is this experience quiet, calm? Or is it intense, stimulating, high energy? So the combination of those two, that's the brain's quick instruction manual. Tells it what to do.
You got it. Think of it like 4 quadrants. Low arousal, positive valence, like feeling content or calmly interested. The brain tags that as, this is good. Maintain this state. That often underpins things like steady relationships or absorbing hobbies.
Okay, makes sense. What about high arousal, positive?
That's your excitement, maybe euphoria.
Yeah.
The brain tags that as, wow, definitely pursue this, go for it. Often linked to novelty, achievement, maybe even taking risks.
And the negative side works the same way.
Absolutely. Low arousal, negative valence, think of boredom, maybe mild sadness. That tags a situation as draining or just not relevant. It prompts you to seek a change.
And high arousal, negative, that sounds like. That's your intense fear, your acute anger.
Yeah.
That demands immediate, often powerful action, fight, flight, or make a fundamental change right now. So this instant tagging, how good bad it feels, how intense it is, dictates our priorities moment by moment. And over time, that shapes the whole direction of our lives.
Which leads us straight into action, doesn't it? Because these emotional signals, they aren't just passive feelings, they make us do things. And what's really cool, our sources point this out, is the word connection itself.
Oh yeah, the etymology is pretty profound. The words emotion and motivation, they share the same Latin root.
Which is?
Movere. It just means to move.
To move, wow.
So our emotions are quite literally action generators. They don't just sit there, they propel us, sometimes gently, sometimes like a rocket, towards certain things, away from others. This biological drive to move because we feel. That's what carves out a purposeful life. A life without emotion. It's a life without any push or pull, no impetus.
Okay, so emotions generate action. And the system underlying this, it's like a dual engine of motivation, pushing us in two main directions.
That's a great way to put it. Correct. The first engine is all about pursuit.
Chasing the good stuff.
Exactly. Driven mostly by seeking positive emotions. Joy, love, deep interest, curiosity. This engine fuels our big life projects, building relationships, pouring energy into creative work, climbing that career ladder.
And dopamine's involved here, right? The reward chemical.
Hugely involved. It's regulated by the dopamine reward system, creating this powerful feedback loop. You do something positive, you feel good, which makes you want to do more of it. Positive action, positive feeling, more action.
But hang on, if we're always chasing good feelings, why do we do hard things? Things that involve struggle, pain, frustration. That seems counterintuitive.
And that's where the second engine kicks in.
Yeah.
The avoidance correction engine. This one runs on negative emotions.
Okay, so negative feelings aren't just bad.
Not at all. This is such a critical point and something modern self-help often misses. Negative emotions aren't bugs in the system. They are essential correctional signals. If you try to build a life avoiding all negative feelings,
You missed the point.
you basically bypass the entire mechanism for growth. Think about disgust. It's not just feeling yuck. It motivates you to avoid things that are harmful, maybe literal poison, maybe moral corruption. It protects your integrity.
Anger.
Anger motivates you to confront injustice, to stand up when things are fundamentally unfair. It fuels necessary change.
So negative emotions provide the energy for resistance, for making things right. But doesn't that clash with the idea of wanting to feel good?
It creates this fascinating, almost paradoxical situation. The painful emotional input, grief, deep frustration, righteous anger, it provides a type of motivational fuel that simple, immediate pleasure just can't replicate.
How so?
Well, the sources give this powerful example. The sheer pain of seeing intense suffering can become the exact motivation someone needs to dedicate their entire life to service or activism.
Right.
The feeling they get isn't immediate joy, obviously. It's something deeper. A profound, lasting sense of meaning that comes from making a contribution, from correcting something wrong. It's like investing emotional pain to get a return of deep existential significance.
Okay, so negative emotions push us to fix things, while positive ones encourage us to expand. Let's talk about the broaden and build theory. That focuses on feelings like interest, contentment, the upsides of positivity.
Yes. Broaden and build. It's central to positive psychology, and it explains why feeling good is actually, well, productive. It's not just fluffy.
How does it work?
When we experience positive emotions, contentment, interest, mild joy, that sort of thing, it literally broadens our mindset. Our range of thoughts and potential actions expands.
Unlike fear, which narrows focus.
Exactly. Fear makes you zero in on the threat. Positive feelings open you up. They encourage exploration, playfulness, trying new things, being creative. Your mental and behavioral options just bloom.
And the build part, that's the key implication, right? This broadening isn't just temporary fun, it builds lasting stuff.
Absolutely critical. That openness, that willingness to explore and engage, it builds durable resources. Three main kinds, actually. Intellectual resources like new skills, new knowledge. Physical resources, better coordination, fitness. And crucially, social resources, new friendships, stronger bonds, better networks.
So the skills, the relationships, the flexible thinking, those are the actual building blocks for a meaningful, resilient life.
Precisely. So feeling good isn't just a reward at the end. It's a vital investment strategy for your long-term well-being and your sense of purpose. It helps you build the foundation.
We've talked about how positive feelings help us build, but now we need to tackle something maybe even more powerful in forging meaning,
Mm.
the emotional depth that comes from,
Mm-hmm.
well, from adversity,
Mm.
from the really tough stuff.
Mm.
If you look at the biggest shifts in people's life stories, the moments of profound reorientation, they often don't come from just feeling content, do they?
No, they don't. And this is where emotion plays its most intense, arguably its most profound role in creating meaning. We have to talk about the catalyst of suffering.
The catalyst of suffering.
When we face those really intense negative emotions, deep suffering, overwhelming grief, maybe existential despair, often triggered by trauma, by major loss, the emotional weight is just immense. You can't ignore it.
It forces your hand.
It absolutely forces a fundamental reevaluation of your life's narrative. It's compulsory. You simply cannot go back to the way things were before. The feeling itself demands change.
Why compulsory, though? Why does that intense feeling make us create meaning?
Because the human mind craves coherence. It needs things to make sense. When a traumatic event throws your world into emotional chaos, introduces unbearable pain, the mind needs to assign significance to that pain. Otherwise, the pain, the event itself, just feels senseless, pointless, and that's almost intolerable. So there's this deep emotional imperative to transform that senseless event into something meaningful, something that contributes to a renewed sense of purpose, maybe even a higher purpose. The struggle itself, processing that emotional weight, it acts like an engine, an existential engine.
And this process, this is what the sources call post-traumatic growth, or PTG. It's not just bouncing back, being resilient.
No, it's more than resilience. Resilience is getting back to baseline. PTG is about leveraging that emotional trauma to move forward with new depth, new perspective, new purpose. It's a genuine transformation.
How does that transformation happen? What drives it?
It's driven by that emotional necessity we talked about, the need to build a story, a narrative that somehow justifies the pain, or more often uses that pain as fuel for something positive, for a greater good.
And what does that growth look like in practice?
The research points to common themes. People often report a much deeper appreciation for life itself, for everyday moments. They often find their relationships become more meaningful, more authentic, and there's often a profound shift in their whole existential outlook. They understand their own strength, their priorities become crystal clear, often in a way they weren't before.
Let's use that example from the source material, someone dedicating their life to a cause after losing a loved one. Can you walk us through how the emotional weight gets turned into meaning there?
Okay. So in that scenario, the person is likely overwhelmed by grief, maybe anger, a sense of injustice, a really high arousal, negative emotional state. It's incredibly powerful.
Right. It demands an outlet.
Exactly. It demands an output. Now, instead of just being consumed by that despair, that intense emotional energy gets channeled, redirected into action.
Like advocacy, fundraising, research.
All of those. The emotional imperative, the need to make the loss mean something, transforms the senselessness into significance, enduring significance. The intense feeling, the chemistry of it, provides the raw, painful data.
And the meaning comes from the purposeful life narrative built around that data.
Perfectly put. The narrative makes sense of the feeling and directs the action.
So it comes back to, we value what we feel. And sometimes the most intense negative feelings drive the most profound, the most lasting assignments of value.
A beautiful synthesis. We've covered the what emotions assign value and the why they motivate action, both positive pursuit and negative correction, which leads us directly to the next logical step.
The how?
The how. How does the brain actually generate these incredibly powerful signals strong enough to reshape a life? We need to dive into the brain's own language, the chemistry.
Okay, let's get granular now. When we talk about the brain generating these signals, these feelings that drive us, we're really talking about chemicals, right? A complex dance of chemicals.
That's right. It's an interplay. We have neurotransmitters. They're like the brain's fast messengers working within the nervous system. Quick signals.
And hormones.
And hormones. They're more like messengers traveling through the bloodstream.
Yeah.
Their effects are often broader, maybe more sustained, slower, but wider impact.
And understanding these chemical messengers, why is that so critical for understanding meaning?
Because it takes the whole discussion out of the purely abstract realm. It makes it more manageable somehow. If we understand the ingredients, the chemicals involved.
We can better understand the recipe. For motivation, for meaning.
Exactly. The recipe for a motivated, meaningful life, it grounds it in biology.
Okay, let's start with the fast actors, the neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
First one, the one everyone talks about with motivation, dopamine.
Dopamine. The chemical of motivation, yes, but also reward and crucially craving.
Craving.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important to get this. Dopamine is less about the pleasure of getting the reward and more about the drive, the anticipation of getting it.
So it fuels that pursuit engine we talked about.
Precisely. It's that feeling of, I want this, I'm willing to work for it. High levels, you feel joy, maybe euphoria, you're driven, setting ambitious goals. It's the go-get-it chemical.
That distinction, anticipation versus the actual reward, that feels really important for understanding goals and motivation.
It's absolutely key. That feeling of excitement while you're working towards something, that's largely dopamine pushing you, the pursuit high. But it also explains why sometimes achieving the goal can feel a bit flat, anticlimactic, if the whole motivation was just chasing those dopamine spanks during the pursuit.
The destination isn't as good as the journey, chemically speaking.
Sometimes, yes. It can lead to what some call post-goal apathy, and conversely, load dopamine levels. That's devastating for motivation. It's directly linked to clinical apathy and anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure at all.
Okay, so dopamine drives the wanting. What about the feeling of sort of baseline okayness? That brings us to serotonin, right? The stabilizer.
Exactly. Serotonin is like the brain's mood stabilizer. It provides that sense of well-being, calm, emotional stability. Think of it as the shock absorber in the system. It helps modulate the intensity of other signals, both positive and negative.
And it does more than just mood.
Oh, yes. It's fundamental in regulating basic biological functions, sleep cycles, appetite. Its role is really foundational. Having adequate serotonin activity is essential for things like patience, resilience, the ability to stick with things even when they get tough, which meaningful pursuits always do.
And low levels.
Low serotonin activity or imbalances in the system are very frequently linked with conditions like anxiety and clinical depression. It destabilizes the whole emotional foundation.
Right. Okay, what about the one that signals immediate alert? Norepinephrine, also called noradrenaline.
That's the alertness signal, the pay attention, and now W chemical. It's a huge part of the fight or flight response.
So it ramps everything up. Heart rate, focus.
Exactly. Increases heart rate, sharpens focus, boosts overall arousal. Now, while high levels are definitely associated with acute anxiety and fear,
It's not purely negative.
not at all. It's also the chemical that pushes us into those high-focus, high-energy states needed for intense concentration or performance. When it combines with dopamine, for instance, it can contribute to feelings of focused euphoria, or maybe those flow states where you're completely absorbed and performing at your peak. It's about intense, directed attention.
Okay. And rounding out the key neurotransmitters, the brain's own painkillers, endorphins.
Endorphins, yes. Our natural opioid system, they're basically built-in pain relievers.
Crucial for survival, I imagine.
Absolutely. They allow us to push through pain or extreme exertion. Think about injury or intense physical activity. They produce that sense of, well, general well-being, sometimes euphoria.
Runner's high.
That's the classic example everyone knows. They work to immediately dial down the perception of both physical pain and psychological distress, like anxiety. They provide a lift, reinforcing behaviors linked to endurance, adaptation, pushing our limits.
So those are the fast messengers within the brain. Now, the broader ones, the hormones traveling through the bloodstream. Let's start with the one linked to connection, oxytocin.
Oxytocin, often called the love hormone or the bonding hormone, and for good reason. It's fundamental for social connection, trust, empathy, attachment.
How does it work?
It gets released during things like physical affection, hugs, touch, but also during childbirth, nursing, even just positive social interactions. It fosters intimacy, creates calm, and importantly, it seems to shift the brain's focus slightly away from purely individual rewards towards more communal well-being.
And that's critical for meaning.
Hugely critical, because so much durable, long-lasting meaning comes from our relationships, our secure bonds, feeling part of a community, contributing to something bigger than ourselves. Oxytocin is the chemical bedrock of that.
Okay. Next, the immediate panic button. Adrenaline, also known as epinephrine.
Adrenaline is pure, instantaneous reaction. It's designed for short bursts, explosive action. A threat appears, Bang, adrenaline floods the system.
Heart pounds, energy surge.
Yep, rapid increase in heart rate, blood pressure skyrockets, energy stores get mobilized instantly. It's associated with those sharp, intense feelings: terror, panic, immediate rage. It's all about surviving the next few seconds or minutes. It's not built for the long haul.
Which brings us to the hormone that is involved in the long haul, sometimes problematically, cortisol, the main stress hormone.
Right. Cortisol is essential in the short term, too. It helps mobilize energy reserves so we can deal with a challenge that lasts more than a few seconds. But this is where it gets really critical for long-term health and ultimately our capacity for meaning. The danger lies in sustained high levels.
Chronic stress.
Chronic stress. If you're constantly worried, facing ongoing threats in a toxic relationship, whatever it is, cortisol levels stay high, and the body enters a state the sources call allostatic load.
Allostatic load. That sounds heavy. Like the physical toll of stress.
That's exactly what it is. It's the cumulative wear and tear on your body and brain from being stuck in that on-alert stress response cycle after cycle. Chronic vigilance, fueled by constantly elevated cortisol, actually starts to remodel your system.
How so?
It physically links your stress response to your emotional state, creating that background hum of long-term anxiety, maybe even hypervigilance. And that state, it's the polar opposite of the calm stability you need to pursue goals, build relationships, find meaning. You're stuck in defense mode, not growth mode.
Right. So we've got the ingredients laid out: dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, endorphins, oxytocin, adrenaline, cortisol. But the feedback was clear, wasn't it? We need to stress that emotions aren't usually just one of these.
Absolutely crucial point. It's almost never just one chemical causing a feeling. The brain isn't that simple, like flipping a single switch.
It's more like
It's a dynamic chemical environment, a delicate chemical cocktail. These substances interact, they influence each other, they balance each other out across different brain regions, all working together to create the incredibly rich, nuanced spectrum of emotions we actually experience.
So let's try to decode a few specific emotional states using this cocktail idea. Let's start with the big one, the goal of that pursuit engine: happiness or joy. What's in that cocktail?
Okay, true. Stable happiness seems to be quite sophisticated chemically. It's not just one thing. It typically involves surges in dopamine, that sense of satisfaction, reward, this is good.
The payoff?
Yes, but it also needs a solid foundation of serotonin. That's the stabilizer, remember? It keeps the joy grounded, prevents it from becoming manic or unstable, and often there's a dash of endorphins in there too, contributing that feeling of physical lightness, ease, well-being.
So a balanced mix, not just a dopamine hit.
Exactly. Sustainable happiness needs that well-mixed cocktail for stability and depth.
Okay, how does that compare to the chemistry of love and attachment? You mentioned earlier the chemistry changes as a relationship goes on.
It really does, and that shift is fascinating. It basically defines whether a relationship lasts. The initial phase, that falling in love feeling, the attraction, the excitement, the laser focus, maybe feeling a bit obsessed.
Yeah, what's driving that?
That's primarily high dopamine intense anticipation of reward, the thrill of the connection coupled with high norepinephrine. That gives you the focus, attention, the energy, the arousal. It's chemically very exciting.
And maybe not sustainable.
Probably not in that intense form. It's a high arousal state. For the relationship to transition into long-term bonding, into deep attachment, the chemistry has to shift. Towards oxytocin becoming dominant. Oxytocin fosters the trust, the security, the calm intimacy, the reliable connection. It allows partners to move from that norepinephrine-fueled infatuation, which can be turbulent, to a stable oxytocin-fueled commitment. That transition is absolutely essential for building a life of shared meaning together.
Makes sense. Okay, let's flip to the stress side again. The cocktail for acute fear and anxiety.
Right. This is the stress axis firing on all cylinders. Acute fear, that sudden panic. It's driven by massive, immediate releases of adrenaline and norepinephrine. That's what throws the body into instant fight-or-flight readiness.
And if the fear doesn't go away, if it becomes chronic anxiety,
Then the system gets augmented. If the stressor persists, or if we shift into that state of constant low-grade worry, then cortisol levels start to rise and stay elevated. The cortisol keeps mobilizing energy, but it cements that feeling of persistent vigilance, that deep background hum of physical stress that just won't let you relax.
oh, okay. And lastly, the state that's often defined by what's missing chemically, depression.
It's complex, of course, and very individual, but looking across the sources, clinical depression is frequently associated with some kind of functional imbalance or deficiency, most commonly involving serotonin and dopamine pathways.
How does that play out?
Well, the lack of sufficient serotonin activity can impair that mood stability, the resilience that patients needed to cope, and the deficiency in dopamine activity. That robs the person of the ability to anticipate reward, to feel motivated, to experience pleasure. That's the anhedonia we mentioned.
So the resulting cocktail, or lack thereof, makes it incredibly hard to pursue anything meaningful.
Immensely difficult. The very drive and stability needed are chemically compromised. Hashtag tag outro, host, speaker, and expert speaker.
Wow. This whole deep dive really shifts perspective, doesn't it?
Mm.
When we talk about pursuing a meaningful life, we're actually talking about, well, managing our internal chemistry, setting ourselves up to cultivate the positive, broadening chemicals while using the corrective power of the negative ones wisely.
That's a fantastic way to synthesize it. Exactly. We've traced the journey, haven't we? From defining meaning through how it feels,
Right. Emotions as value signals.
to understanding how those feelings generate action, pushing us towards or away from things,
The dual engines of motivation.
and finally decoding the actual chemical language the brain uses to create those feelings and drives.
And the core insight, the thread running through it all.
It comes back to we value what we feel, and we pursue what gives us the feeling of value. Understanding the chemical basis just gives us and gives you listening a much better map for navigating that pursuit.
It stops us treating emotions like random weather patterns we just have to endure.
Precisely. They're functional data points.
Yeah.
Rich information telling you exactly where your deep values lie and what kind of action, pursuit, or correction might be needed. It's a framework for understanding why you feel drawn to certain things and repelled by others.
The sources really drove home that the neurochemistry gives us the raw data, the pleasure, the pain, the interest, the fear.
The raw feeling.
And our motivational response, the meaning we make, is the life narrative we build to make coherent sense of those feelings. When you feel that deep fulfillment, that's your brain confirming, yes, this path aligns with a sustainable deep value.
Well said.
So we've reached the end of this particular deep dive, exploring the emotional and chemical architecture of meaning. We should probably leave you, our listener, with one final thought to mull over, shouldn't we? Something to carry forward.
Sounds like a fitting way to wrap up such a big topic.
Okay, here it is. If all meaning-making is, at its root, driven by this emotional imperative, this need to assign significance to the raw data of our feelings, then maybe ask yourself this.
Go on.
How much of your current life story, your narrative, is driven by chasing those immediate, maybe high arousal, positive chemical rewards, the quick dopamine hits of achievement or novelty, versus how much is driven by the deeper, often harder work of creating profound, lasting meaning by engaging with and transforming the difficult emotional stuff, the negative depth?
Ooh, that's a powerful distinction. Are you primarily chasing the next fleeting high? Or are you invested in the challenging but ultimately more significant process of turning struggle or pain or injustice into lasting contribution? That choice between temporary pleasure and enduring meaning, maybe that's the most important chemical management decision we all face.
Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the motivating power of human emotion. We really hope it's offered some clarity, maybe some useful tools for navigating your own search for purpose.
Indeed. And we'll see you on the next deep dive, where we'll continue to peel back the layers on complex ideas to help you become truly well-informed.